say it's for these particular factors. The reason it's not evidence-based is evidence-based typically means that doing these things has a demonstrable effect on child maltreatment or on this impact. And that means that these things are associated with this, not perfectly, not completely, but they're there. These things are associated with this, but loosely. But you multiply those two together, and it's a pretty weak connection. It's pretty hard to demonstrate that doing these things results in this. But for this particular grant program, we're not really expecting any measurement of this. We're really just asking you to show us that these things can have these kind of outcomes. Is that clear? You excited? Who said yeah? All right. Are you the one causing trouble at the table? Good. All right. Good. Exactly. Welcome to my world. Thank you. All right. And so what do we do? How do we do this? Well, we are going to have, we're asking for HealthPath to fund the pinwheels for prevention. We need some staff time to actually do these. We need to actually purchase the materials. We need do this. About the local, we're going to work with the local FCFC, Family and Children First Council. Is that people? Okay, yeah. And they are going to actually donate some staff time to doing all of these things. They're already planning to do it. We're going to ramp it up and make it bigger than it's ever been before. And we're going to focus on getting these endorsements and other sort of, and so that might be an example of something that would be taking something that has been used nationally. And we can cite other places that use. I just went on the website, and there's been 900,000 pinwheels set up someplace in the US so far. So there's ways we can show that these types of activities can have these types of impacts, and in our budget show how here's what we're going to be spending the money on, and here's some of the other community partners that we're going to be working with. That excites me. That's hopefully not too complicated, but that gives you a sense about how to walk through a logic model so that you can see how the money eventually is going to be addressing these outcomes. Is this consistent with what we're... Any comments or questions from you guys on?
I would just say with this example in particular, if we think back to what Kenny talked about this morning about the spectrum of prevention, that this whole community awareness building, is an important component to that. So, in particular, if it's coupled with other strategies that you're implementing in your community related to whatever problem you're focusing on, that it really can have an impact. And as Kenny mentioned, we don't expect this to be, a research, highly researched, evidence-based project necessarily. We want to encourage you to use those programs and things that you've heard about today, where there is some evidence-based, but that community awareness programs would definitely be an appropriate sort of request for this. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And frankly, I think it's going to be even more compelling. Most people are aware that there's some sort of problem. So, you'd have to make a case that a lot of people aren't aware of it. Other issues in family violence, elder abuse, Joe Simonson had mentioned before, really it's not on people's radar screen so much. And so that might be much more compelling because you can make a better case showing that there really isn't much awareness of this as a problem. And so we want to think about that. That's going to be the strength, the link between this and this might be stronger compared to, let's say, child abuse prevention, which which many people are already aware of. So this is one example, but that there's ways to do it as well. Here's another example, and then we're going to go look at the sample. How are we doing on time? Are we? I'm okay? All right, we have 10 minutes. Okay, here's another example. Do it more quickly. Financial abuse of elders. I've referenced this before. What are we going to do about it? Well, let's work with some local banks to get them to have local bank tellers increase their ability to identify warning signs of vulnerability, available resources. What should they do if they suspect someone an elder is being financially exploited? We also want to increase local seniors' ability to identify warning signs of vulnerability and available resources, and also increase local adult children of seniors, their ability to identify warning signs. So we're talking about the same sort of phenomena, getting people to understand, be aware of it, and what are some warning signs of vulnerability, and what to do if you see it among local adult children of seniors, local seniors themselves, and among bank tellers, who are one point of contact seniors might have with some sort of institution. How are we going to do this? We're going to have a local media campaign through local banks, posters or what have you. A speaker series on financial abuse of elders, and flyers distributed through Meals on Wheels, or some sort of campaign that we might do multifaceted way, trying to address these different pieces. And thank you, HealthPath, you're going to pay for all of it. But wait, if you order now. No, also local banks are going to, they're allowing us to display. We're not having to pay them to put this poster. They're allowing us to display. They're going to allow some of their staff time to participate in some sort of local training with them. Also, local senior center is going to donate meeting space and also space in their newsletter. We're not going to have to buy an advertisement. You might need to if they don't want to cooperate. But if you have some of these types of relationships, that's exactly the kind of in-kind donation that you should put up there. And you could, and if possible, you could even monetize it and say, so-and-so, we would have to pay $50 for ad space in their newsletter, but they're giving us for free. So there's ways you can start to include in the budget and specify. Are they doing everything? No, but they're contributing to the speaker series and the flyers, and the banks are going to help us with the bank campaign. And so this gives you a sense about how the inputs are going to be associated with these processes, these activities, and how these activities, which of them are associated with which. The financial series and elder abuse isn't going to do anything for the bank tellers. There's no arrow there. That's fine. That's great. But at least each of these has at least one arrow going to it. And so you can begin to see how you can map out what you're doing and how it's going to be influencing which factors, where your budget's going, to make sure that there's some arrow going somewhere. Does anyone have a question, an example they'd like to try out? Something they've been jotting down? So in the back of that sheet of that useless handout, that's now no longer so useless because of what you've written on it, I want to encourage people to start to map out. This is a helpful way to start to organize your thinking, because each of these will go into different boxes in the proposal. Okay? So let's give one look at the sample proposal. If you can pull that out from your packet, this will give an example of how we might, what the eventual full proposal would look like. This is not a letter of intent. This is what the whole proposal, it's not that much work. And the whole point was that we wanted to kind of make it an easy threshold to enter, so you can try writing a grant without taking hours and hours and hours. But also give you this type of session to give you some confidence that you could actually get this done. So the example from there is teen dating violence among high school students in Erie County. Anyone from Erie County? I know it's purposefully not in the service area. I wanted to, but there really is an Erie County. There really is a United Way of Erie County. I changed the names to protect the innocent, but these are all names of high schools, real high schools, and there are real people, though I decided last minute to change their names a little bit. I think Laura Morgan became Maura Logan, and things like that. I get punchy too. It's not that funny. Okay, so what we're trying to do is, can someone kind of a volunteer to read out what the problem statement is? Come on. Here, thank you. What's the problem statement for this sample proposal?
To reduce physical and emotional abuse among Erie County high school students in dating relationships.
Good. Okay, great. So that's what we're trying to do. We're being very, again, specific. Physical emotional abuse among this particular population. Erie County high school students in dating relationships. That's the problem. And so what are we going to do? If you look at the section on contributing factors, a couple things we want to do. Increase teens' knowledge and skills for how to respond. A lot of kids don't know what to do if they suspect they have a friend who's in an abusive relationship? How should they respond? Teens' cultural exceptions. This just happens. It's what's normal. It's normal. So, can we change that? Can we change the community's cultural acceptance of domestic violence? How can we do all of these for $5,000 in a year? Well, one thing we can do, we need to train local teachers to implement safe dates. So let's have a training of some local teachers from the different high schools. You can look in the process objective section that should specify. Can I have someone read out that, or actually I'll just read it, or interest of time. You can read it. Thank you. Here, you can read it. Can I have that? You, come on. With feeling.
With feeling. Like on what do you know, not much.
Right.
Project description.
Yeah. Have you sung in public before? Okay. So under, so here is the.
You want me to read the whole thing?
No.
This is the description.
Yeah, this is the description. So here are on the section 2B, on page 3, it says the process objectives. Just the first one. Yep.
By November 30th, 2012.
That's when. Yep, go.
That's when?
Yeah.
Oh, that's when?
Yeah.
Yeah. November.
Mm-hmm.
This year. Two teacher teams.
Who?
Two teacher teams.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
From Edison, Sandusky, and Huron high schools will participate in one-day training.
What? Good, keep going.
At the United Way of Erie County.
Where?
To learn how to implement Safe Dates curriculum.
Okay.
This will help address outcome number 3, that many school administrators, teachers, and parents are unaware how common teen dating violence is or how severe its consequences can be.
Right. Excellent. So we say what we're doing, who, when, the process is pretty clear, and that's the why is this is what we're going to try to do. Now, of course, you can't really do that. Well, you could actually implement safe dates. You could have Donna and her team, parachute in and do safe dates and then leave. But I think it would be more, it's still realistic to be able to actually train some local teachers to do it, have a one-day training where you have a couple teacher teams come in, and they can do it themselves. They can, and in and of itself, it's not going to do a whole lot. You're only really influencing 8 people, but maybe there's some sort of way to consider it. You're going to implement safe dates. That's another process objective. You're going to do it in 2 different high schools, and that's going to have some influence on teens' knowledge and skills and their cultural acceptance. And to sweeten the pie, we're going to have a social media campaign. You're going to have some maybe gift certificate to Cedar Point, the day pass, whoever gets the most likes on their teen dating violence website. And so a couple of kids, not just in the classes in the schools, but throughout the school, will compete to get to publicize safe dates or teen dating violence, what have you. That will address the community's cultural acceptance, and maybe you can also have someone from the local. I should have had someone else there. Sorry. Have a local media consultant help connect with local newspapers, radio, TV. This would make a nice little story, and so you have a way to support this type of work that's addressing each of these factors and so on. And that recognizing the school is providing teachers and some classroom time, so that's an in-kind donation. And so you can begin to see how this maps out, how you can take this and then write a proposal much more easily for the process. So I think I'm out of time, and you're probably out of patience. But I'd be happy to stick around and take questions, and thank you very much for your time.
Okay, just bear with us for a few more minutes. We're coming around the home stretch. The Community Connections program is going to use a slightly different approach to looking over these applications that you're going to, proposals that you're going to submit. And so to tell us more about this, Christine Moelven, the new Community Connections program consultant, is going to come up. but I'm going to give you a little background on Christine. Christine spent 12 years at the HealthPath Foundation of Greater Cincinnati as its Director of Communications. And as part of the program staff, she was involved in all the aspects of the grant-making process. She was responsible for all the foundation's communications. She led capacity building workshops and provided technical assistance to nonprofits. As the Community Connections Program consultant, she will provide assistance to grant seekers, train the grant proposal readers, facilitate the review process, and design evaluation for Community Connections Program. Christine earned her bachelor's degree from Aquinas College and her master's of Technical Science and Communications degree from Miami University. So please welcome Christine. Thank you. She organized this whole event today.
All right, while I am switching out my PowerPoint, I would like you to look in your folder for that very important blue piece of paper that is blue so that it does not accidentally get thrown away. That is your evaluation for today. So, yeah, I'll get it. I really just need, you can leave it there if you want. If you guys can fill that out, you can just leave those on the table when you leave, but it will give us the information that we need to better plan these ahead of time. Also on the back, there's something there for other suggestions. So if you can think of anything that you like, I had popped into one of the other sessions, one of the breakout sessions, and someone was talking about using Facebook. And I was like, oh, one of the things that I did at the Health Foundation of Greater Cincinnati was lead workshops on how nonprofits can use Facebook or Twitter or Flickr or any of those social media tools that seem to leave the vowels out. If you've noticed that, like a lot of them like to spell, like Flickr has no E, it's not ER, it's just F-L-I-C-K-R. So if there's any suggestions for things like that, that as you're writing your proposals and you think, oh, I'd really like to know more about how we could use Facebook on this, write some of those things down there or feel free to contact me about that because we can help you with that. And I am not. Plug it back in. Okay. Let's see. Well, and it worked before because this is what we used. All right, so just a little bit about HealthPath. It actually started in 1999 as the Anthem Foundation of Ohio, and it chose two areas at that time. It chose family violence prevention and preventive oral health care. It also looked at a couple other prevention topics, because right from the beginning, HealthPath had a very prevention focus. And what's really interesting, and I shared this with Teresa, is that when I was at the Health Foundation of Greater Cincinnati, one of my very first assignments when I started there in 1999 was to help the Anthem Foundation edit their needs assessments that they had done across Ohio on the 4 focus areas that they were looking at. So it was interesting that, 12 years ago, that's one of the things that I started doing in my career, and then this is where I am today. In 2011, they actually added a third area on strengthening Ohio's safety net. Let's try it. And to date, HealthPath has invested $13 million across the state in those areas. That's all right. We'll just keep going. So the Community Connections Grant Program is going to award grants of up to $5,000 to organizations that will do best and promising practices in family violence prevention. That could be bullying, child abuse, elder abuse, intimate partner violence, teen dating, any of those topics that you've heard about today. We're really going to focus on the family violence prevention, not necessarily gun violence or other forms of community violence. Okay. Nonprofit organizations, schools, government entities, any agency, nonprofit agencies, or collaborations as well, who serve people in the 36-county area that HealthPath covers, and that is also in the proposal guidelines. So even if you're located, for example, in Erie County, Okay? If you're going to be serving people who are primarily in one of those 36 counties, we will still consider that proposal. If you're a statewide organization, for example, in Columbus, and you really want to focus on a smaller region within that 36 county area, we would consider that as well. Okay? All right. The first thing we're going to start with the grant proposal is, and there's a timeline sheet in your handout that kind of summarizes what the timelines are, is a letter of intent. Okay? We want those to be about 2 pages. Okay? We're hoping that we get a lot of letters of intent. We want people to have really great ideas. Okay? We want you guys to submit those. And what the letter of intent is going to help us do is see who's sort of ready to go, who best meets, the criteria that we've set out. So whose project really, have they thought about it? Do they have the evidence? Do they have their population defined? Do they know what they want to do? Do they have that evidence-based practice? We want those to be 2 pages so that you're not spending a lot of time on a proposal that may not fit what we want. So the letters of intent will kind of help us go through those and see which people are ready to put that full proposal together. And those letters are due Friday, June 1st. Okay? That is a postmark date, yes. If you choose to email it, we need them by, well, actually, no, I'm sorry, it's not a postmark date. It's 5 o'clock, Friday, June 1st. So if you're mailing them, try to mail them out May 31st. You can also email them, and all of that information is in there. Okay? We want those, again, to be 2 pages, nice and short. You don't have to spend a lot of time on it. We just kind of want to get the idea that you know what you're ready to do, and we'll go from there. We'll take about 2 weeks to review all of those, and on June 15th, we'll let people know which letters were accepted to submit a full proposal. So please do not start working on your full proposal until you hear back from us. We don't want you spending a lot of time on something that's not going to happen. Okay? Like Sharon said in the intro, we're going to use community proposal readers to help us review the full proposals and decide who will get funding. Okay? So there'll be people just like the people in this room who we're going to bring together. We're going to train them on how to review proposals, and then they're going to help us make the decisions about who gets funded. So if you know of people in your community who are doing great work, who you think would be a really good proposal reader, send me their contact information. So as we start recruiting people, we'll get ideas from the community of who should be on those panels. Full proposals will be due Friday, July 27th. That gives people about 6 weeks between when the letters of intent are accepted and the full proposal is due. During that time, Kenny is available for questions for some of that time, and Teresa and I are available for questions as well. And as we get questions in, we'll post those questions and the answers on the HealthPath website so that other people can see what kinds of things have been asked and answered. Okay. Grant awards will be announced on September 14th. And then we're having a recognition luncheon and evaluation workshop in early October. And people who, once you know if your letter of intent was accepted, you may want to put the October 5th date on your calendar because at least one person from each grantee organization will be required to attend that event. That's when we're going to go over the evaluation requirements. All right, did I miss anything? No? Okay. And I know that was really fast, so any questions? Any special margins? You know, I think for the letter of intent, like we're saying 2 pages, please don't send an 8-point font, you know? I know printers these days can do like really skinny little margins. So just a nice, reasonable, Times New Roman 10-point would be fine. Don't get too crazy with that. And again, the letters of intent, we're not looking for a lot of specificity. When you see the full proposal, there's actually word limits on that part. So it doesn't matter what font you put it in. 250 words in 36-point font is 250 words in a 12-point font. So don't get too crazy with your margins, but be reasonable. Yes? Is it acceptable for the same organization to submit more than one proposal. I think letters of intent, definitely. Yeah, letters of intent, definitely. And what you may find is that you may be submitting one while you're a sort of contributing organization or collaborator with Sharon or, you know, with any of the other people in the room. So yeah, you can submit more than one letter of intent from a single organization, or you can be part of more, I guess, than one letter of intent. But keep in mind, though, that when you get to the proposal part, the reviewers are going to look at, well, I see that person a couple times. Do they have enough time? Does that organization have enough time in a year to really implement 3 different programs? So. Okay. Can personnel from organizations that submit proposals also be on the grant review committee? We're going to work on that because we'll definitely need to have a conflict of interest policy. All foundations have that anyway. We're not going to say no offhand, but each proposal reviewer is not going to be reading all of the proposals. We're going to chunk it out into smaller, manageable pieces. So what we will try to do is, if your agency submits a proposal and you are a grant reviewer, you will not be reviewing or be responsible for reviewing your own proposal. Darn it, I know. And also, to piggyback on that question, if you get someone, say, from Preble County submitting proposals, the reader won't be from Preble County. Yeah, if the, Sharon's question was, so if a proposal is submitted from Preble County, will the reader be from Preble County? There's different ways to organize that, and different foundations who use a similar process have different thoughts about that. We haven't gotten all of those details sort of locked in. One thought with that is you want people kind of from that region so they understand how that region works. You know, someone reviewing the proposal from Hamilton County, for example, may not understand the dynamics of Preble County. So we're going to take a very careful look at how we arrange the grant readers and which proposals they look at. So, yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So when you come for that evaluation workshop, and we don't want to scare you to think it's going to be this big, complex thing. It's going to be very simple, but you'll receive your check for your grant at that time.
So if you receive a grant, the start date will be sort of October, 5th. So you'll have a year from then. Anything else? Anyone? All right. Thank you all so much for coming today. Don't forget to leave your blue sheets. And again, thank you to all of the roundtable presenters. You guys did a fabulous job. Thank you.
And thank you again to the Planning Committee for all of you for being here today. Please don't be shy. If you have any questions, contact Christine or myself, and we'd be more than happy to help you. Thank you, and have a safe trip home.